Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. It is a privilege today for me to hand to our President Greer, who led this meeting yesterday with thousands and thousands and thousands of people with the Adoniram Judson gavel. And it's appropriate today that he chooses to lead with the Annie Armstrong gavel. What I hold in my hand today, of which he will use today throughout the day, is a gavel in the name and the honor of Annie Armstrong, who was a founding member of the Utah Place Baptist Church in Baltimore, Maryland. This gavel was made from a railing post in the church. And the church has long been relocated and is now as the Woodbrook Baptist Church in Baltimore, and the old building still stands as an occupied by a National Baptist congregation. You know, what's really amazing about Annie Armstrong, she was instrumental in the founding of the Women's Missionary Union that has been used of God so greatly. And of course, in her honor, the North American Mission Board does their annual offering at Easter. The interesting thing about this is, President Greer, you're motivated by lives like this because this lady did everything she could to make a difference, to move forward the purpose of missions. She wrote 18,000 letters in 1 year, Dr. Greer. So that is now your new assignment after today. But today, I just want to say to you that, you know, people, obviously, when you're a leader like President Greer, people say this, people say that. But one thing I do know about J.D. Greer, if you were to cut him and open him up, he bleeds the Great Commission in the reaching of North America and the world. Mr. President, my honor to give you this gavel today. Bless you. Appreciate you.
Adoniram Judson and Annie Armstrong, two Great Commission Baptists, if there ever were such a thing. I hope you are familiar with both of them. If you are a parent or a grandparent, I hope that your children or your grandchildren, you have gotten them their biographies so that they can read them and model their lives after many of the aspects of their lives. Good morning, everyone. In a moment, the chair is going to recognize Bryant Wright and his team to give us a short report on Send Relief. But before I do that, I wanted to acknowledge, just to make sure you are up to speed on yesterday. Yesterday, as we were hearing the nominations at the end for the recording secretary, in the middle of the second nomination, the parliamentarians and I noticed that we were getting dangerously close to not having quite a quorum in here to be able to do our business. And so after the second nomination speech for recording secretary, we press pause. That's how this has to work. We press pause. The nominations were put onto the table, but the election was going to happen this morning, which will happen very early in our process here. Some of you, those of you that stayed through the end, heard the nomination speeches. For those of you that, because the hour was late, you left early, you were not able to hear those, and so Baptist Press has made those available. If you haven't seen it, on Twitter, if you just go to the SBC meeting handle, then you can see the substance of both of those speeches of both of those men whose names were put into nomination. So if you want to familiarize yourself with them before we actually take the vote, that is your access and ability to do that. I think Bryant Wright would forgive you if you skim through that also while you were listening to him. Okay? The chair at this time recognizes Bryant Wright and his team for a Send Relief report.
When disaster strikes, whether it's the surge of flood waters from a hurricane on the Gulf Coast, or a typhoon in Southeast Asia, or the lack of water on drought-parched farms in Africa or South America, Southern Baptists, with the help of Send Relief, are ready to respond with help and hope. But not every crisis is a natural disaster. Around the world, people are struggling, walking miles for the basic necessities they need to keep their families alive, or starving for nutrients because even in their city of plenty, they're feeling alone and abandoned in a food desert. To respond to people in need, Send Relief has ministry centers like this one in Clarkston, Georgia, in metro Atlanta, and in cities across the U.S. but by working with our partners around the world to provide physical needs and share the everlasting hope of Jesus Christ, Southern Baptists through Sin Relief have the amazing opportunity to help people everywhere not only survive, but thrive. Join Sin Relief to make this happen by participating in our mission trips, compassion events, and trainings, and through prayer and financial support. The needs are everywhere, and together we can meet needs and change lives for people on the other side of the world and right down the street. Together, as Southern Baptists, we can be an unstoppable force of hope. Together, we are Sin Relief.
We were in the car on the last week of vacation when my wife looked at me in August of 2019 and said, "What are you going to do?" I had had the privilege of being the founding pastor of Johnson Ferry for 38 years, and I was getting ready to pass that leadership to a younger pastor, and she was concerned. She said, "I don't want to be the whole focus of your leadership. What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, but I hope the Lord allows me to do something in missions." And as we were walking inside from the car, I received a call from Paul Chitwood, the president of the IMB. And through that call and a series of follow-ups after that call, I now stand before you today for the first presentation at the SBC for Sin Relief, which is a joint ministry of the IMB and NAM. About 50% of our staff are IMB employees, and about half are NAM employees. And on our international side, we're led by a seasoned and exceptional former IMB missionary, Jason Cox. And our North American side is led by Josh Benton, who is a former career public servant and a student minister. At Sin Relief, we're all about helping local churches become the hands and feet of Jesus, either through training at one of our 17 ministry centers around the U.S. or by supporting our IMB missionaries and partners through compassion ministry projects that go on all around the globe. In our very first year of this partnership, even in the COVID pandemic, we were able to serve over 2.8 million people around the world through over 950 U.S. churches participating and hundreds of IMB missionaries and their partners in ministry. And here's what's best of all. In the first year, in 2020, over 23,000 people came to trust Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior through the ministry of Sin Relief. That's awesome. And the beautiful thing about our compassion ministry is that it's done through local churches and our IMB missionaries, churches and missionaries that will continue to serve these communities day in and day out, building relationships, meeting needs, and pointing people to Jesus. One example, in South Asia, in a family that was dying of starvation, the mother and father had decided to have one final meal with their family by poisoning their children and themselves so they wouldn't have to die a lingering death through starvation. And yet in the final hours of dealing with hesitation of carrying out their plan, one of our Sin Relief partners showed up at their door with food for them to make it through that difficult time. And not only did this meet physical needs, but it met their spiritual needs they didn't even know they had, because that mom and dad came to trust Christ as their Lord and Savior. Your gifts to Sin Relief are saving lives physically and spiritually all around the world. Here's how you can partner with Sin Relief today. Number one, stop by our booth and accept one of these backpacks and learn how, that backpack's not for you now, but learn how you can pack backpacks to give away supplies, food, clothing to those in need of your community. And on top of that, you can match those gifts internationally as well. But secondly, Join one of our Sin Relief Serve mission tour trips that will be happening all over North America. And you can learn about this on sinrelief.org. But thirdly, support your disaster relief teams in your state by sending your gifts to Sin Relief that can provide for supplies and resources nationally and supporting them. And on top of that, be willing volunteers as needed, both nationally and internationally. And fourth, plan to promote and give to support the annual Global Hunger Relief Offering on October 10th. Mark that date down, because hunger and starvation issues have magnified greatly with COVID-19 this past year. And fifth, sharing our Sin Relief gift catalogs to church members and friends is a unique way for you to make thoughtful gifts to support vital compassion ministries around the world. And you can find out more about that at sinrelief.org. Now, these are just 5 ways to get you started, but Sin Relief is involved in so much more. You know, when Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan, sharing compassion for the man beaten and robbed on the side of the road of the Jericho Road, it was part of the genius of Jesus that he chose a Samaritan as the hero of the story. For you see, Samaritans were looked down upon by the Jews as ethnically inferior and theological heretics, especially in this time of cultural and political and societal division. The genius of Jesus' brief story is it not only teaches us to show compassion to hurting people, but especially to people in need who are different from us, people we may have resented and looked down on or even demonized. But at the same time, Jesus' number 1 mission for his church is the Great Commission, to make disciples from every people group on the face of the earth, saving lost souls. You know, being a good Samaritan to make people feel better on their road to hell has not met their greatest need. Sin Relief is all about showing compassion and meeting people's physical needs while meeting their greatest need that they don't often realize: salvation from sin and a meaningful, eternal, abundant life through God in Jesus Christ. We have no desire to be merely a humanitarian relief organization. Our passion is for people from all walks of life to come to know Jesus personally. We want to show them the love of Jesus through compassion ministries and how to come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And when we join compassion ministry with gospel ministry, we truly better fulfill the ultimate mission of Southern Baptist Christians around the globe. When we live out Jesus' great commandment of loving the Lord with all our heart, soul, and mind, and loving our neighbor as ourselves, it then better enables us to fulfill Christ's Great Commission. And when we become Great Commission Baptist Christians, we fulfill Jesus' mission for the church, and God is glorified. This is the ministry of Sin Relief, and we ask you to join with us as we seek to serve you and serve our churches in sharing the love of Jesus Christ here and all around the world.
Thank you, Bryant. You know, our time is very packed this morning, but Bryant, actually, you finished a little bit early. If my memory serves me correctly, this is the first time that you have addressed this in the position you are because of our convention being canceled last year. And because of this new ministry and the exciting things that are there, I think it'd be very appropriate for us to pray for what you have in front of you and even to pray over you. So I know you just got comfortable in your chairs, but could you stand up here with me for just a moment? And what I want you to do is I want you to take about 30 seconds or a minute or so, and I want you to turn to the person next to you, or if you're more comfortable praying by yourself, I want you just to voice a prayer to God on behalf of Sin Relief, both the national and international components. I want to ask you, though, even if you choose to pray by yourself, pray out loud, because Dr. Wright needs to hear the voices of Southern Baptists calling out to God. That will be a memory for him that I know often brings me courage in the midst of trial, knowing that I have a body of people praying for me. So would you do that right now? And in just a moment, I'll actually voice our prayer on behalf of him. Okay? Do that now.
bless this work, and may loving hands carry help and hope to millions